Welcome to OkState Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad you decided to tune in. A frustrating Sunday night. Not going to lie about it. Yesterday, Bedlam basketball was a very frustrating event for me for many different reasons. A, we don't have to play OU. The last thing I want to do now, having seen that they left the conference, they left Oklahoma State behind for dead. They could give two rats' ass about the well-being of our university. The last thing I want to do is watch Oklahoma State lose to OU, especially when we don't have to. It's one thing if it's a conference game and you have to play them, or if you get beat at something like that and you get to get them back again in Gallagher-Iba Arena maybe later in the year. We used to see that, right, where OSU and OU would split. But just to say to go to the Paycom Center and to play like absolute crap, okay, like Oklahoma State did, I'm just going to warn you right now, I'm super pissed about the basketball game. I know we're 9-1. I get it. It was one game. I get it. There's plenty of season left for Oklahoma State to make a statement that this program is getting better and that it's getting to the point where we all hope that it gets to. And more importantly, that this program's on a rise to the point where it's actually going to get the attention of Oklahoma State fans to get back into the arena. Because here's the deal. 20, 25 years ago, you didn't have the Oklahoma City Thunder. OU was not in the SEC. This whole area was a Big 12 area. Oklahoma State, and OU basketball, when Eddie Sutton was here, was a big deal. It was for a little while Travis Ford was here, okay? Oklahoma State basketball in general was a big deal. And it can be a big deal again. So when I say, is Oklahoma State on the right track? Yes, they're getting better. This program is better under Steve Lutz than it was Mike Boynton. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But what I would say is this program has to get substantially better because there's a lot more competition for the general attendance's attention, if you will, to get people back to a Gallagher-Iba Arena on a Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock when it's 32 degrees outside and they can just turn it on and watch it on TV while they're doing the dishes. That's the fight you have. And then the really frustrating part about it, for me, probably the most frustrating part about it, was I really love the fact that Coach Lutz was feisty about, hey, man, basically what he said was the crowds at Gallagher-Iba suck. We got to have a better home crowd. People need to come to these games. We're playing better. We're playing good enough to demand better crowds than we're getting. We're playing good enough to get people to come back and give us a chance to come watch us. I thought that was a great message. I thought it was very, very, very risky when he said it at the time. And now that you went ahead and laid a clunker, I'm going to call it a clunker, a dud. You can defend that outing yesterday against OU. You can make you can have hey, and I'm not saying Parsafala, if he didn't injure his back, I'm not saying that wouldn't have played a factor. It wouldn't have played a factor on the defensive end. I will say that. I will disagree with you if that's your opinion there. I'm not going to do anything other than just say, hey, that game sucked. I mean, OSU should have won the game even without Parsafala. I would say Porter Moser pretty much dominated the bench. He outcoached Steve Lutz by hand and fist. And I love Coach Lutz, don't get me wrong. But it's very frustrating that you come out with that kind of confidence, with that kind of comment, kind of go Mike Gundy on it, and then you lay a clunker. You let OU dictate the tempo. You let them dictate the offensive end of the floor in the first half. There wasn't a whole lot of scoring. You let them out-rebound you to absolutely no end. And I don't know a whole lot about basketball, but I will tell you, everybody that does know a lot about basketball will tell you rebounding a lot is just 1-2 an effort, that kind of deal. You let OU control the tempo, and you let them control the foul line. So kind of what I'm saying is, if you went into this and you went, okay, what all things does OU have to do? What parts of the game do they have to control to beat Oklahoma State? Oklahoma State allowed OU to check off every single box. That starts on the sideline. So you can have a disagreement with me. Fine, you can disagree, think I'm being an asshole. Totally fine. Understand that I'm coming at this from a perspective from somebody that goes to basically every home game, and I have to sit in an empty-ass gym, and Oklahoma State had a chance to grab more momentum for this program than it had in the last 2 decades, and they laid a clunker. It reminded me of the Mike Boynton game against Kansas State 2 or 3 years ago when we had Isaac Likely, and I think we were ranked like number 18 in the country. We won 7 or 8 games in a row. Everybody was excited. Everybody goes to the K-State game at home, and we just suck all over the place. And then the rest of the season wasn't very good. And it's like, okay, well, we've been tricked. Because the thing about Oklahoma State basketball fans and fans all in all, we like to say loyal and true, but Oklahoma State fans struggle to go to basketball games. They struggle to go to baseball games. They go to the softball crowds are good because the venue's small, and the wrestling is absolutely dominant. So there is some competition now. Are Oklahoma State fans bad? Absolutely not. Oklahoma State fans are good, but there's competition to get them to go. And trust me, I grew up with Oklahoma State fans that didn't go to Oklahoma State football games either. So we're no different than any other team. We like the loyal and true aspect of things, but our fans aren't going to come if you're not good. They're not going to go to football games if you're not good. They're not going to go to basketball. And more so than anything, they're not going to go if they feel like, hey, I've seen this chapter, I've seen this verse again, and I know how this ends, okay? And so kind of why I say that is Oklahoma State fans are not going to be tricked about the kind of basketball that's being played. So when they look on the floor and they see selfish basketball, they see a team that's not rebounding, a team that's not running an offense, a team that's just jacking up shots that are incoherent through what they're trying to do, whatever it is they're trying to do on the offensive end, past maybe a high ball screen and a pick and roll. And then you watch OU get wide open three-point shots. I understand OU shot very well, but wide open three-point shots, rebound the ball, get 3 or 4 possessions at it, and just beat OSU at everything they had to do to win the game, and just basically just slap OSU in the face and say, get out, little brother, go back to Stillwater and hide in your hole. That's basically what happened with Oklahoma State on Saturday, and it has me extremely pissed off because, again, if you go win that game and you go 10-0, Coach Lutz has just laid down the law, get your ass to the game. Now he has the ability to come out and go, see, I told you, man, I got confidence in these guys. I told you this team is good. They play good basketball. So get your ass to Gallagher-Iba. That all went exactly opposite of the way that was planned. And so from that perspective, yes, you can say it's one game. I'm not, from a diehard of 50 some odd years that's been going to basically every home game since 1978, I am going to vehemently disagree with you. This was not just one game. This was a chance to get people back to Gallagher-Iba. This was a chance to get people back in excited about OSU basketball. And now I'm just telling you, the casual fan that you need that's sitting in Oklahoma City or in Tulsa is going to go, well, I gave him a shot and it sucked, okay? I gave him a shot and I had to sit there and listen to OU fans shove it in our face all day long. No, thank you. They're going to feel tricked again, okay? And I'm going to have to go to the next games at Gallagher-Iba Arena, and they're going to be empty. And, hey, I'll say this again. Does this team have a chance to correct all that moving forward throughout this season? Yes, but it's not going to be against Grambling State. It's not going to be against Grand Canyon. It's not going to be against a directional school, whatever that may be. It's going to have to be against Arizona. It's going to have to be against BYU. It's going to have to be against Texas Tech, okay? And they're going to have to actually show up and beat the teams that are in the national primetime for Oklahoma State fans to believe this. That you can say it, you can disagree with me, you can think I'm being an asshole again. I'm fine with that. I really don't care. Watch. I've been watching this same story for the last 20 years, okay? Travis Ford had a couple of teams. You get up there, you get excited, bam. Okay? Again, good part of this is just 10 games. It's just one loss, okay? But that one loss, you lost a lot of momentum that you're going to have to gather back, and we'll see how Coach Lutz is able to rally the troops. And I'll say this, man, my knowledge of basketball is in a thimble, but, OU played zone. OU sent 2 guys to the offensive boards, then they sent 4 guys to the offensive boards, and they sent 1 guy to the offensive board, then they sent 3 guys to the offensive boards. So they attacked Oklahoma State in different ways, okay? And they made it a point, just don't foul them. Don't send them to the line and don't let them have an 18 or 19-point advantage at the free throw line. And let's see if Oklahoma State can be disciplined enough to play good enough offense to outscore us. And they weren't. And, the biggest part of it, though, again, I'm tired of hearing about how the defense isn't good. You can enjoy Coach Lutz's post-game conferences all you want. He calls out the players one after the other. Hey, we did this as coaches. The players didn't do that. No thanks, man. How about you run some set plays on offense? How about you get it fixed? Or if you don't get it fixed, how about talk about, hey, it's on you as coaches to get it fixed whenever, especially, here's another thing, okay? If you want to develop from the bottom up, and you want to say, hey, we've had this guy in our system for 3 or 4 years, whatever. We've trained him into this culture, into that. Fine, okay? But if you want to go out and get an entirely new roster every single year, and then every single post game is, hey, well, I did this, but they didn't do that. That as a former coach of 30 years, when I look at that, I'm like, okay, well, then there's 2 things, okay? There's 2 things to that. Either you're allowing it or you're coaching it. So you're either allowing this team to have a shitty-ass defense that's keeping it from having the momentum it needs, or you're coaching it, or you're not willing enough to play another type of defense like OU did, or you're not willing enough to change up how many guys are you sending to the offensive glass to get second chance points, or how are you playing the ball screen, or are you playing a zone, or whatever it might be. So you're either allowing it, you're either putting guys on the floor that just simply put are not playing defense the way that you're demanding that you want them to play it, and you're still putting them out there. So you're either allowing it or you're not scheming it up well enough to fix it, okay? Either one of them is on the coach's shoulders. End of discussion. It doesn't have to do with, I told this guy to go guard that guy and he didn't do it. Well, then take his ass out, okay? It doesn't have to do with, well, we let this guy dribble by us and they were coached to do this instead. Well, then take his ass out or fix it. Find somebody, go recruit somebody that will do that then, okay? That's my point with that. So from me, and I'm pretty fired tonight, and I could care less. The one thing that I want, the only thing I want, is Oklahoma State basketball to be back. I want Gallagher-Iba to be full, and I want everybody to be 100% behind OSU, and I want this team to reach its goals. This is a very talented team. This is a team that can score in multiple different ways. It has good shooters. It has penetrators. It has guys that can make free throws. It has guys that can post up. It has every ingredient to be good, okay? To be good. Okay, there's 2 or 3 things that are causing this team not to be good, and they need to get fixed. And that starts with Coach Lutz. So y'all can let him off the hook. Y'all can think that his calling the players out is a good idea, or it's, well, let me ask you this. How is it fixing anything? It's not, okay? And then as you go on, what it's going to do is it's going to cause the kids to go, okay, whatever. You asked us to do the same thing over and over and over, and the other team did this, and then it didn't work. So that's what it is. So my suggestion moving forward is fix it as a coach. Find a different scheme. Find different players. Do what you have to do to get it fixed so I don't have to hear the same excuses over and over and over about what this team isn't doing, okay? That's where I'm at. Again, I'm fiery. I'm probably being an asshole. Don't care. I have one goal. Oklahoma State basketball to be a national contender, Steve Lutz to be the guy to lead them to that situation, and for this team to reach the potential it has. So that's kind of really all the thoughts I have on this, and what we're going to do here in just a minute is we are going to actually turn this over to Coach Rainwater, and we're going to make it rain. Coach Rainwater is going to talk about, he's not going to talk about Bedlam, he's going to talk all about Eric Morris and the football hire. We're going to turn our attention. To be honest with you, I need to stop talking about basketball. I'm still too pissed off about last night's game. Actually, we have Scott Swiden on the phone right now. So, hey, Scott, let me make sure that your audio is good. Okay, we are unmuted. Scott, what's up, my man?
I can't hear you.
You cannot hear me. Okay, give me 1 second here. This is, all right, there we go. All right, can you hear me now, Scott?
I can indeed.
All right, Scott, I'm on a rant. I'm extremely pissed off. I'm extremely frustrated. Sorry, my fandom's coming out and I'm being irrational, but that's where I'm at. Sorry.
I feel your pain. Take a deep breath for a second.
Yes.
I don't disagree with you, but I will tell you that especially in today's world, it is so different to be able to appease players. It's a difficult job. I think that this staff will get it done, but let's just break down yesterday's game just a little bit.
Let's do it.
We
Somebody
go into
knows
the
more about
game
basketball than I do.
And for 2 games in a row, we've got a guy scoring 20 plus in the post and just dominating. And all of a sudden, in the first few minutes of the game, as the flow starts going, he can't play.
Yeah.
He's in there, but he can't function. And so all of a sudden, the biggest part of our offense that we build the outside game from is gone. So I get that sounds like, well, okay, so just put somebody else in there. Unfortunately, and Vukovic played some good minutes, but he's not the post threat that Fala is. He doesn't have the same skill set. So it really threw our game plan. And again, remember I talked to you last week about these game plans and how coaches get so locked into things. Well, unfortunately, that was what happened yesterday. A majority of the problem was 90% of our game plan was out the window. So then it's improvised time. You just didn't shoot the ball well. Remember I told you when this team shoots 40% and above that they're almost impossible to outscore. Well, we shoot 37%. So there's that. And listen, everybody that knows me knows that I absolutely despise officials. I despise the fact that they're gutless, spineless, cocky jackasses. But we got the worst end of it yesterday by far. We got guys to the rim. They just got hammered, and there were no calls. And that irritates me. I can also
understood,
point out,
but officiating is something that you learn to control what you can control.
I guess,
and I mean that you can't if you can't control the officiating, so you have to learn how to figure out a way to win around that.
But I think you can manipulate things just like Coach Hoyt, although she picked a really goofy time to do it, but as soon as she ripped into one, suddenly calls started changing. That happens. It's human nature. And Coach Lutz was too nice. He should have ripped those guys' heads off after about the 4th time we got somebody decked on the way to the basket. But neither here nor there. I can also point out to you 2 specific times where an OU player rebounded the ball and fell to the floor with the ball. That is a travel by rule, and it was not called, and they got squirrely shots out of the deal. One of them was even a 3. So these kind of things, it's like today in the Kansas City game when the guy wraps up the receiver before the ball gets there, and if the back judge is right there, had a clear look at it, and they don't call it, and the TV guys are scratching their head going, they kind of missed that one. That's not a miss. That's incompetence. But anyway, forget the officiating. You're right about the fact this team was not mentally tough yesterday. They need to toughen up. You've got point guards missing free throws again. That was early in the game this time, but it started a trend, and you miss about 8 free throws. Well, game was only 9 points. You make a couple of shots inside, you get a couple of foul calls inside there, and the game is totally different. If Fala is healthy and plays, the game is totally different.
I don't agree with you there. I think he helps on the offensive end. I don't think he helps on the defensive end, and I think this game was squarely lost by the defense.
Oh, well, the defense was not good, but I'm telling you right now, when you've got guys making shots 2 steps behind the line and you've got a hand up, you can't fight that. And by the way, that offense isn't sustainable. They can't sustain that. That's you hit those hot streaks every now and then. They were in one yesterday. And I don't agree with the announcer guy was saying that the one time that Pack hit that shot and by the way, it wasn't 28 feet, it was more like 33. He was so far behind the 3-point line that there was no reason to guard him. And he's just dribbling the ball, stand there, and all of a sudden he shoots. You can't defend that. Yeah. And that's luck. I don't care what anybody says. There's no skill involved in that. That's luck. They had the luck yesterday. They out-hustled us. Now that bothers me. And that's got to be fixed. But I still think that when you take a player like Fala, who the way he's been playing, out of the game, and you can't automatically fix that spot, like have somebody in there where you could at least throw the ball into and work the ball a little bit and get the defense to collapse. They weren't going to collapse on Vukovic. It was him one-on-one.
So what do we do if he gets in foul trouble?
One or two other guys.
What do we do if Fowler gets in foul trouble moving forward?
But he still would. He had 0 points. Even when he's been in foul trouble, he's scored in double figures this year. We lost by 9, so do the math there. It's a big loss when you lose a guy like that.
It is.
When he can't play and he doesn't score at all. So that was a big deal. Now, should you be able to overcome it? Absolutely. They got some good shots that they just missed. That's, when the other team makes shots and you miss shots and they're open shots, that's the way the game plays sometimes. I don't know what the solution is to that. I hate to say it, but in some ways you got to tip your cap because they did play well. OU played well. That's all there is to it. Now, I still think we should have won the ball game. There were possessions that we were ineffective, that we didn't move enough. We got the ball. It became too much hero ball. And I think, again, that was part of the fact because most of the time their offense rolls through the post, and there was no post there. So they started getting into some 5-out situations. They weren't moving. They weren't screening on the weak side. There was a lot of things that they'll pick up on film and go, yeah, we fucked this one up. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Coaches are going to say that.
I love it.
They're going to say that. They screwed it up. And they'll admit it. I'll guarantee you. They didn't make adjustments and they weren't prepared. But I still want to know because I don't know what's going on injury-wise because I don't get as much information as you guys do. I'm still wondering, Brody got no minutes yesterday. Is he hurt? I don't understand. I didn't know.
You can be 9-0 all you want, but if you don't win better.
Dude, if you're not having guys make shots, there's somebody that might throw one in every now and then.
Yeah.
So he must be hurt. I want to see what this team does when they're 100% healthy. Maybe it doesn't happen. I don't know. But then you were telling me about the guy the other night that's supposed to be the best rebounder on the team.
Ahmed.
He still hasn't suited up yet.
Yeah.
So who knows? It's tough to do when you keep losing guys like that. There was one year, I think it was 85, that the women's team at one point in the season was down to 6 players.
Yeah.
You can't function like that.
Well, OSU had to go get Alonzo Mays and Darius Bowman even whenever Coach Sutton was there.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have enough guys to practice some of the times. Yeah, it's tough. I feel you though, Casey. Yeah, I was as frustrated and upset for a few different reasons, but we got to see what happens over the next few games and the first couple of conference games.
Oh, no doubt. I'm not by far not giving up on the team.
Okay.
I'm just saying this was a huge opportunity for Coach Lutz made the statement. Hey,
you're right.
Hey, we're confident. We're playing good. By God, we're here. Okay, so we need you to start showing up. And if we would have won this game, he could have went. See. Yeah. Now get your ass to Gallagher-Iba and let's make this like it. Now, all of that went. I'm just telling you, I know OSU fans. All of the goodwill of going 9-0 just went out the door by losing to OU.
Yeah, there was an opportunity there to get some people back that may not be there. I still think if they'll pull off a win somewhere in there against Iowa State or Texas Tech,
correct.
It will change. It will change quickly.
Yes. Agreed.
Even playing those teams close. Now, Tech, I don't think is as good as they've been. I still haven't watched much of a play, but giving up, and Arkansas is really good. I get that, but they had a pretty good lead against Arkansas that they lost. Iowa State, though, is definitely the real deal. There's no doubt about that. So I don't know. I don't know how we can play with that team and with Arizona. Arizona, I was kind of thinking at halftime, their game yesterday, I thought, wow, they're not playing that good. Next thing you know, I look over there and they're up 20 in the first 4 minutes of the second half.
That's what I'm trying to tell you to convince Oklahoma State fans that this thing is actually turning around in a way that's going to make them want to come to Gallagher-Iba consistently. It's not going to be against the Colorados. It's going to have. They're going to have to beat Arizona. They're going to have to do it consistently.
You're right, but we got to win the games against the TCUs. Yes. And the Houston, well, not Houston, they're awful good too. The TCUs, the Kansas States, the Cincinnati, I think is maybe the worst team in the league. Yeah. From what early results are.
Baylor doesn't look great.
No, but yet Baylor, they're one of those teams that they'll throw shots in out of their butt half the time from half court. That's the thing. We've got to get the mentality on the court. I think I think their confidence was a little shaken in the Grand Canyon game. And I think when Fowler went out, it got shaken again. And they're like, well, okay, we got to play hero ball. We got to make up for him now, especially when we got behind. And that's just not the way you do it. But
Oklahoma
these
State
guys,
fans can identify that immediately. We've been seeing,
these
it for 2
guys
decades.
haven't played together all that much.
Yeah.
We got to remember that. And it's sometimes it takes a little more time than that to get teams to gel chemistry-wise. I'm not saying that they don't like each other, but I think that on the court, knowing your teammate, knowing what they do, takes a little bit of time, especially when half of them keep missing the game after game. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
I've never seen injuries like this before in a basketball team. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. People say, well, the Thunder have had injuries early. Yeah, but they've had the same team together for 2+ years.
Yeah.
It's a whole different story. These guys are all
and it's
new.
injuries at the wrong spot. Like, I think if you lose maybe a forward or a guard, you're fine. But losing the position of Fowler, we didn't have anybody that could like. I think if you lose Jalen Curry, I think Kanye Clary and guys like that can make up the slack. We just didn't have anybody that can make up the slack for Fowler.
I'll tell you this: if our big freshman kid, Makai or whatever his name is, if he's healthy, you could throw him in the game yesterday in spots just to cause them some problems.
Yeah.
Because he's got fairly decent skills. At least they would have had to guard him. Vukovic isn't the type that they're going to guard down there. They weren't worried about him. When he was in the game, he was relegated basically to screening, and he played okay. He didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but he's not the same type of offensive player in the low post.
Yeah. What do you think about Mandzukic?
He's a
Just
solid
young
player.
Yeah.
He's not a great athlete. He's experienced, but he's limited to a couple of things. He's good at finding open players, and he's good at catch and shoot. Other than that, I don't know that he fits. Now, maybe he's got more to his game. Maybe he hasn't shown it yet. I don't know. He's not a stiff by any means, but I'd rather see Crotty out there anytime. Just because
I was kind of hoping he would be
his motor.
I was kind of hoping Mandzukic could be somewhat interchangeable with Fowler, but that obviously.
Oh no, he's not big enough for that. He doesn't have the strength.
Yeah.
No, that's not going to work. This freshman kid, they need to get him
Jennings.
healthy, number one. No, not Jennings. I'm talking about Makai.
I know, but Jennings would help too.
Well,
is what I'm saying.
See, that's another one. We talked about that the other night.
Yeah.
If he's in the game, he makes a difference on the glass. And a lot of that is he'd been playing. Sometimes you, as a player, and you shouldn't do this, but they get comfortable thinking, "Oh yeah, Robert's got that one. We don't go with the boards because he cleans it up." And so it's like Fowler's there. We'll get some points out of him. Okay, we got 0. Who would have thought? If you'd asked me before that game if Fowler scores 0 points, I'd have said, "Oh, well, hell no, we're not going to win. There's no way."
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. Even if he just scores 10, it changes the game. So hang in there. Don't jump off the ledge yet.
Oh, I'll be there every game, like I have been for the last 40 years.
I wish I could be there. I miss, and I didn't go to that many games when I lived in Edmond just because job and weeknights and tickets and things like that. I didn't have the couldn't just do a season ticket all the time. The few games that I've been to. One of my old players has had season tickets, and if he's not going to game and I'm in town, he'll ask me if I want them.
Yeah, cool.
And I've been, but that's been like one game each of the last 2 or 3 years. I don't think I got to any last year, but the 2 or 3 years before that I did and enjoyed it. I went to the Georgetown game, which talk about a team that shot the lights out.
That was another one. That little guard, that little guard that went to Texas Tech, Max McClure.
That guy was unbelievable.
Lit us up, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he's playing in some professional league, lighting it up too, overseas somewhere. But anyway, Mac McClung, that was it. Yeah. And the funny thing is, that night's like, boy, sure wish we could get him in the transfer portal. And then he goes to Tech. So there you go.
Hey, what do we need to do before I know you're busy, so you probably got to go up. But what do we need to do to fix this defense, man? I'm tired of watching the other team score every stinking possession.
First of all, I would mix the defenses up.
Yes.
I would run some zone just to show people things and to keep people out of foul trouble a little bit, get them out of rhythm. I would mix it up. We used to do man on makes or on misses and zone on makes
Oh,
and
nice.
run some pressure here and there, full court off of makes, just to change the tempo, to try and create some things. It's these guys have to make a commitment to buy in, but it's kind of like we saw in football the last couple of years. You get guys in and you start paying them, and it's a little bit different. First of all, you can't fire these kids like you can in the NBA or NFL. You can't get rid of them. So they kind of have all the cards. If they decide, okay, well, I'm going to opt out. Okay, I'm not going to put up with you, so I'm just going to opt out. Well, then you're stuck because you can't take their money away from them, which I think is a mistake. I think that's got to change. That's one of the big problems now. These guys opt out, whether it's football or basketball or whatever, and there's no penalty for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's got to change. But it's not the easiest thing to do. I think that they will buy in. I think that all these guys have played winning basketball and don't like to lose, and that their pride will eventually force them to play harder on the defensive end. And I'm not saying they're loafing, but they don't do the things on the ball. Sometimes you just get beat by guys that are quicker.
Right.
And they weren't terrible on the ball yesterday. It's off the ball. And when their guy doesn't have the ball, that they're where you got to be better on defense. And it's not so much, let's go back to Coach Sutton's teams. His defense was not deny 30 feet up the floor. I've always said with a shot clock, I'm not too sure, unless you are athletically better at all 5 positions, why you're out there denying the ball 40 feet from the basket. That doesn't make sense to me, because you've got a shot clock on your side. That's an extra defender. They can't just stand there with the ball all day long. So make them pass the ball outside the 3-point line and keep it out there. That's what I don't get is getting up and getting so tight on people that they can back cut you all day long.
Right.
Doesn't make sense, and that's what people do. I mean, every smart basketball player, if you step up too far up the passing lane, they're going to backdoor you.
Right.
And so that and we don't. I'm still not convinced that on ball screens, when we tried to trap it, it worked a lot better, but we only did it a half a dozen possessions. I think we should do it every possession. I don't think you should ever change. If they're going to get baskets, they might as well get cheap ones down around the lane instead of threes all the time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff. I am a big proponent of defense. That's what my strength is. But at the same time, sometimes I like to play defense up the floor and try and get turnovers, or sit back and clog up the lane and make people shoot over you. Well, they're going to shoot like that. I guess that kind of throws that out the window. So there, to me, the other thing is get up the floor and trap and try and create things. And if you give up layups, you give up layups.
Yeah.
They're still better than threes.
Yeah.
Threes tend to be demoralizing, especially when somebody throws it between their legs and they're covered and they're falling out of bounds and all that crap. That's very demoralizing.
Yeah. So another deal, too, is how do we clean up this rebounding thing?
Well, there's a guy named Rick Wilson that coached Oklahoma girls basketball for 40 years and has 7 or 8 state titles. And, he never worked on blocking out drills in practice. He just said, if you don't rebound, we're just going to run. You got to want to rebound. I think that, yeah. Well, he also one time, he still denies this, but I think one game he had a team back when his younger daughter was playing out at Hydro, and they were so good, and they were getting lazy and fat on the cow, and I think he threw a game one day so he could take them back, and they practiced from 9 until midnight after they got home.
Yeah.
So I think that it's one of those things. You got to want the basketball more.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes the same with defense. A team that doesn't play really hard on defense oftentimes is not a great rebounding team.
Yeah.
Because it all has to do with effort.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with, if you're going to foul, I want you to knock them into the basket standard and try and take them out. Not the way this clown did yesterday Gawi or Wagi or Wagyu or whatever the heck his name is. He should have been tossed. He intentionally. You watch the replays and you see him look our guys in the eye before he chucked them in the throat. Those were very intentional.
Yes, I agree.
And he should have been
no
tossed.
disagreements.
And that's, again, gutless officials in my opinion. They're afraid to make waves because they might get overruled by the conference office later on. Big deal.
Yeah.
If you worried about what somebody else thinks like that, if you can't make a decision like that in a game when it's that obvious, go home. You shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if you know my dad, but
what's with all these officials that have to shave their head? What is it? Are they all like chemo patients or something? Come on.
I don't know.
Give me a break.
I don't know if you know my dad. I don't know if you know my dad or not, but he was a Big 12 football official he was Big 8, got in early 80s, and he retired about 10 years ago. He's been replay until last year. This was his first year retired. So
wait a minute. Stop. Hold on. You're saying Terry's your dad?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I did not know that. That's one of my mentors and one of my best friends.
Yeah.
I love that man. Him and his rope lanyard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. His rope lanyard, and you talk about bald head and a temper.
My God. But
of course,
he didn't
I got my same temper from him. You can see that, right?
He didn't shave his head. No, Terry, I go way back to when I started officiating in college in '82. Yeah. And me and my roommate Clint Holler and David Willis.
Dave.
Your dad was one of our mentors.
Oh yeah.
And he was so nice. And even when I got back in officiating, the last 10 years ago, I went back to Stillwater to do it. I wasn't going to do it in Edmond because I couldn't stand those clowns. But he was, he and I still talked all the time. And, and one of my favorite humans alive. No wonder I get along with you.
Well, you know where I get my temper now.
Well, okay.
And kind of the nonsense,
I've never
nonsense
seen him lose his temper. I do here's what cracked me up. So when he started doing the replay, you remember the big game, Texas at Iowa State.
Oh, yeah,
in,
absolutely.
2012
I remember them all.
Or 13 or 14, somewhere in there. And your dad was doing the replay on that game. And the following week, we had an officials meeting, Stillwater. And he says, I was sitting up there. And every time that was one of the games where it was a Thursday night. So we had a hookup in Dallas, and Walt was in there. Walt, the
Coleman.
guy that's with the NFL now. Walt Coleman, Oh, I hate that guy. Anyway, he said, every time they came up to him, I said, Walt, what do you think? I let him make every stinking call. I didn't do anything. I love it. Oh, my gosh. You tell him I said hello. I haven't seen him since I moved.
I will tell Dad that Scott Swiden said hello. He got me calmed down on the podcast the other night. That was the big deal. You got me under control. You can't tell, I'm still pretty fired up.
He was friends with the guy that started me in fishing, which was Dave Garrett's dad, Foster Garrett.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Foster was a great Oklahoma Hall of Fame official. And also David Warden was on. Oh, yeah. Wasn't he on your dad's crew?
David Warden. Oh, he loves David Warden too.
See, David's a Henrietta guy too.
Oh,
he was around. He wasn't quite my dad's age, but he grew up in Henrietta. I've known David forever. What a bunch! What a great bunch of guys.
Yeah. And the national championship game, he was the one who threw the flag against.
No, I know.
Against Miami, and the head coach was Larry Coker. And I don't know if you know this or not, but Larry Coker was the head coach at Fairfax in the 70s.
Yep.
And Dad officiated him, and Larry came up to Dad and said, "You know what? We've been going back all the way till the mid 70s, Terry. I trust you. If you think this was a defensive hold, then I trust you, right?" And that call was verified as correct.
It was the problem is your dad's white hat changed it to pass interference.
Yeah.
And it was a hold.
Because the ball's in the air.
If they would have called a hold, it would have been no problem.
Yeah. And Dan Fouts, the announcer there with Keith Jackson, just went off on it. So.
Yep. No, I remember it well. But I remember back in the day. I remember watching. As your dad slowed down, he and Dan Bales used to crack me up because
Rick,
Instead of like on a inbounds play or foul or something, instead of doing the inbounds on the side, he just tossed it to the point guard at the top like you did in pickup ball and say, "Go ahead."
Yeah. You've never seen anybody get the ball and bounce faster than Dad. That's for sure.
Oh my God, he and Rick, they never crossed half court. Either one of them. It cracked me up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. In fact, they're still officiating, both of them.
I'll be darned. Well, I always told your dad I wanted one of these days I wanted to call a game with him, and I never got to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely awesome,
Hey,
Scott.
that's so cool. I did not know that. I kept thinking, why this name, Casey Porter? I should know him somehow. Now I know why.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate, one, your friendship there, and two, getting me calmed down here, because I probably needed to get calmed down. I've just been watching this basketball for 2 decades, and I want it to be good so bad, I mean, I just want it to be back.
We all do. It's going to take it just isn't going to happen overnight. I think that this team, they're going to beat somebody.
Yeah.
They may beat more than one somebody. But even with this league, I was talking to Randy Renner about it yesterday. I said, golly, look at these teams.
Yeah.
Houston, Arizona, Iowa State, Kansas. My God.
Yeah.
The SEC thinks they're good. They ain't got nothing on the Big 12.
Yeah. Well, just look at the head-to-head. I think Big 12 has it. Yeah.
All right, man.
Well, I appreciate you, Scott. Thank you so much for coming on, brother.
All right. See you.
Okay. See you, Scott. Greatly appreciate Scott there getting things calmed down. I was on a pretty good rant there. I'm not going to apologize for it. I won't apologize for it tomorrow. I'm as diehard as anybody goes, and I've had 24 hours to think about my thoughts, and those are my thoughts, and I'm entitled to them. Like I said, you're welcome to disagree with them all you want. We're not going to social media argue back and forth, that type of deal. But if you want to have a disagreement, great. Let's have a great conversation. Like I said, we're not going to call names or anything like that. But let's get after that. So, anyways, hey, with that, we're going to turn to Coach Rainwater, and we're going to talk about Coach Morris and the new staff and everything else. So with that, let's not waste any more time. Let's make it rain. Welcome to OkState Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Joined by Coach Rainwater on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Coach, we have officially turned the page. This has been very difficult on both of us. We have both had a tremendous amount of respect for Coach Gundy. We have truly appreciated everything he has done. Time to turn the page and make it rain.
Yeah, time to move on, like we talked about last time. Just starting a new era and excited about, last time we talked, we were excited about the hire and the possibility, and just seeing how that's coming together officially, and press conferences, all that kind of stuff, like what's coming out of the department and the football program and the things that Coach Morris had to say. And so it's exciting to finally move on from the past era into a new era, and it's even more exciting about who's going to be leading that charge. So I don't know how, as you and I talked briefly before we got on here, I don't know how we could have done any better. So very excited about the possibilities, and like we've talked about it, there's no guarantees. Doesn't mean it's going to work, but I don't know how you could have picked a better client to lead, whether it's going to work or not. So just excited about, bad part is we got to wait another 7 months or whatever it is to see. So, but yeah, very excited about it, and like everything that's coming out of that camp, and excited about all the things that's coming together. We talked last time about the camaraderie with that staff, and the success they've had at multiple programs, and seeing how Coach Morris looks like he's going to be bringing that same philosophy and staff with him to continue that momentum and try it at OSU. So I'm very excited about it.
So Travis Ford, I know Stillwater. He's more of a big city guy still. I think they actually lived in Edmond for a while. Don't exactly quote me on that, but I think they did. But I think he was a more transactional type deal. And what I'm getting to is you're moving on from a legend, and the next guy after a legend, that many times is. Usually it doesn't work because it's just very difficult to do. It did not work with Travis Ford. And I understand there was a bridge with Sean Sutton, but still just the legend part of it was just the Sutton name, right? So I think this is way different because I think Eric Morris, the reason why like Josh was such a good hire on the baseball side, I think Eric Morris is going to be a Stillwater guy, not just an OSU guy, and he's going to just kind of ingrain himself into the culture of the society there and the town of Stillwater, which if you kind of understand that from an intrinsic value, which I think he will, that allows you to sell it a little bit better, I think, maybe.
Yeah. Like the old adage is you never want to be the guy that follows the guy.
Yes.
You want to be the guy that follows the guy that followed the guy.
Yes.
But this got marks of a different feeling, like you're talking about. We've talked about in the past about how OSU and Texas Tech have mirrored each other and very similar in the past. And Coach Morris being from that program and being from, I don't know, I can't remember exactly where he went to high school. Or
Shallow Water.
Shallow Water. It can't be much bigger than Stillwater, if even as big. So, I think there's a lot of similarities to the way he grew up and where he went to college. It's going to mirror a lot what Stillwater has to offer, and it's going to be an easier transition for him per se than some other region of the country or some metropolis or something of that nature. So I think there's a lot of similarities in the way he was groomed and grown up to what Stillwater and OSU is. So that's and not being like you were saying, he's going to ingrain himself in Stillwater. He's not going to, or at least that's the feel that I get from him, and not be a guy that coaches at Stillwater but lives in Tulsa or Edmond or Oklahoma City or something like that. So it seems like a down-to-earth, small-town type guy, community type guy, just by the things that he was saying about how he runs his program and how even he wants the community inside the program, right? And what I mean by that is the camaraderie and the family atmosphere with the players and that sort of thing. So I think that goes to show you of his upbringing, and what he instills into his program mirrors the way he was brought up and raised, and what he the type of living situations that he's enjoyed. So I think it's going to be different. There's always exceptions to the rule. We hope this is the one exception to, you don't want to be the guy that follows the guy. So, and I think something that helps that too is how, the guy in the OSU situation, how that ended. I think that is going to help Coach Morris, in that he's not coming in and trying to follow up. He's not like DeBoer at Alabama.
Yeah, right.
It's a totally different situation from that. So anyway, but there will be the people out there that want to constantly compare him to Coach Gundy, and if he's loyal and true and all that stuff that we've talked about in the last podcast. But I'm on the wagon of looking at all the positive with what's going on right now. And to me, there's a lot more pros than cons to this situation. Yeah.
What excited you the most about the press conference and what you heard from him? I think, to me, it was the fact that, yes, we're going to be high flying. He was very confident in the way that he put with his quarterbacks and the playmakers on offense. I think, though, the thing I was most excited about that he said that I was sold on, we're going to have all that, but we're going to be small town tough. We're going to be small town gritty. And that goes to, hey, we're going to do more with less, which is what you have to do at OSU to an extent.
Yeah. Probably what grabbed my attention the most, and this goes back to my dad, in that my dad served in the military and was in the Army. And he always, I shouldn't say always, but I remember him talking with me, just his son, about, it's all fine and dandy, and it's a good feeling to say fight for your country and fight for the flag and all that kind of stuff. He said, but son, when bullets are flying, the people you're fighting for is the buddy that's sitting right next to you, right? The guy that you went through basic training with and jump school or whatever the case is, the guy that's right next to you, you're fighting so that both of you get back home, right?
Yes.
And I kind of tailored that to what he was saying in that press conference about what he wants his locker room to look like, right? What he wants his team to look like, and that it be a family and a lot of camaraderie and community inside the program, that they're going to build that camaraderie with doing things together, and it not be a bunch of individuals. So that really struck me, because at the end of the day, and I think that's probably a better explanation of what the point I've been trying to get across to the people that want to scream loyal and true all the time,
yes,
is that when you're on the field, right, or in battle, whatever the case is, right, and sometimes we people in athletics try and use war terminology, but we're going to war, we're going to battle we don't ever want to try and compare the two, but when you're on the field and you're competing, you're not necessarily worried about the name that's on your jersey, right? You're competing with the guys that's next to you, right?
Yeah.
And you're wanting to go out there and perform well for the guys that's next to you. The offensive linemen aren't up there blocking for OSU. They're up there blocking for the running back and the quarterback, right? And there's no more better example of that than when somebody scores a touchdown and how guys celebrate with each other, or somebody gets an interception, how guys celebrate with each other. And I listen to my wife and my daughter say, acting like little kids out there, and that's what it is. They're out there, they're out there fighting and competing with the guys that they're in the locker room with every day, that they're on the practice field every day with, that they're in class with every day. And the byproduct of that is they're competing for OSU as well, right? But I think what's important to remember, and what caught me in that press conference, was he didn't just come out and say that, but that's kind of what it meant to me, was that we're going to be a group of guys that's fighting for each other, right? Yes. Not fighting with each other, but fighting for each other.
Did you buy it?
I did.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, I don't think, it wasn't I didn't get the feeling of a press conference of we're going to come in and win national titles and all that kind of stuff. It was about, here's what we do and here's what we're going to build, and kind of what, one of the things I've talked about a lot in not liking the word process and all that kind of stuff is, here's what we're going to do, and here's what our program is built around, and here's what we want our team to look like. And winning is a byproduct of that, right? Winning is a byproduct, or the lack of winning is a byproduct of the program that you instill in your organization. And I think what he did a good job, or what it seemed like to me, was him describing the program that he wants to bring with him and instill at OSU, the system that he has in place, and the byproduct of that is going to take care of itself. The byproduct of that is going to be winning ball games. And the more ball games we win, we're going to put our position to win championships. And if we win in conference championships, then we're going to put ourselves in position to be in the playoff, college football playoff. And if we're doing that, then we have a chance to, it's not, hey, we're going to go win this national title and then we'll figure out the process later, right? It's, here's the program, here's what we want. We want a community feel inside of our program. We want the camaraderie. We want to be brothers. We want people fighting for each other on the field, and all that other stuff's a byproduct. So that's probably the thing that I took from it the most, in that, really wanting to build. And I think another byproduct of that too, of building that type of program, is the longevity of the players in your program, right? In that, if you have a program where the camaraderie is there and the community feel is there and the family atmosphere is there, that the less likely you have people to be in and out continuously, right? That maybe you have kids for 2, 3, 4 years as opposed to 1 or 2 years and they're transferring somewhere else. So that's what I took from the conference that I really enjoyed, in that he's bet on, I think we talked about this a little bit last podcast, of he believes in his system. He believes in the program that he has built, and then he's going to instill at OSU, and he's betting on the results and the byproduct of that, just like it has at the other places he's been.
What'd you think about what I think some OSU fans could say, maybe since he hasn't been around here, he's seen it from afar, the naivety of wanting to play OU again for people like me I've just seen OSU get their brains beat in year after year after year by OU. I was so glad to see that game gone. The comment there, maybe the naivety of taking on OU. Again, you may not use that word. I do, because of the experiences I've had. And then also, hey, just the total confidence that, hey, yeah, we can win a championship here. So I use that word naivety. Was that naivety to you, or is that just a fresh start that we don't have Casey Porter, who's grown up with Oklahoma State having a limit and being told that Oklahoma State has a cap in terms of winning, that it can't beat OU for year after year? Is that exactly what the doctor ordered for this program? Is just kind of that naivety coming in, thinking that there is no limit to this program?
Man, how do I say this? I've really enjoyed not being around OU fans.
Yeah, me too.
And I should back that up, because I clarified this in a previous podcast last year or a couple years ago. Big difference between an OU fan and an OSU football fan. Yeah. Right. And I think I even said that there's not much more annoying than an OU football fan, right? I don't mind if we play OU or if we don't play OU, or, it'd be nice to have the rivalry back. I just wish we could do it without having to hear an OU fan. Yeah. OU football fan.
Well, beat them every year. That would probably do that.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I said this too. I said they're so annoying that I think that they could fall in a bucket of feathers and still make noise. You know what I mean? And it's just, I don't know. There's just something. I don't think that I would have the disdain for OU that I do if it wasn't for OU football fans.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally. I don't hate OU wrestling or baseball or basketball even. Yeah.
And I don't have the same disdain for OU, like you were just saying, in other sports I do football, because it's just like the football fans are so dadgum annoying. You know, they want to say little sister, and they want to make fun of the 1945 national championship banner and all that kind of stuff, yet they still want to talk about the winning streak in the 40s that they had. And they still want to claim all the national titles that they had in the 40s. And, it's so ridiculous. And so, and I know I'm getting on a soapbox here, but
we have time.
It's so ridiculous in the hypocrisy that an OU football fan has that it's not even funny. It would be like, they never want to talk about the national championships across athletic departments, right? They only want to talk about football. And it would be like me walking into the president of a university and say, hey, I want a degree from here, but I only want to take PE classes, right? I don't want to have a well-rounded education. I just want to take these PE classes that I want, and I want you to give me a degree for it. Well, it doesn't really work that way, right? And I think that's my disdain for the whole conversation about whether or not we should start playing OU again or not. I wouldn't mind it. I think it would be good for the state. I think that, I would rather us be playing OU every year as opposed to Tulsa every year. Yeah. Right. I think it's better. I think it's better for both programs. Right. I think that OSU's in a situation and really a lot of programs are that, those non-conference games are so, not relevant in the big scheme of things anymore, because you can still make the playoffs by going and winning your conference championship. You know what I mean?
Especially for OSU, where that may be your only avenue is through the conference championship.
For the most part, most years, and unless you just have, those 2011 OSU teams come once in 100 years, So I think it would be good to, beef up the non-conference, what they've done with Oregon. But can you imagine playing, Oregon and OU or something like that every non-conference year and still have a chance to make the college football playoff by going and win your conference? So to me, it would be good for the state. I think it would be good for both programs, in particular OSU.
And the conference.
And it'd be good for the conference. Yeah. It would be good for the fan base. But I would just wish we could do it without having to listen to the football fans. So but you can't have it both ways. But anyway,
And the problem is we have to live here, so we have to hear them.
Yeah, well, and we've been OSU fans long enough where we remember the Les Miles of "We're going to find out," right?
Oh yeah, and we found out. Yeah, we did.
We're going.
Sure did, Les.
Well, yeah, one of us.
Grass didn't taste quite as good on that day.
One of us is this and one of us is that. And we're going to find out who is who. We're going to find out which is which.
That is the typical OSU moment right there.
Yeah. So
Ryan Miner scoring 87 points to end Gallagher-Iba Arena on the last night. That's just so OSU, isn't it?
Right. So and you and I have laughed about this too. And that
I have such a losing mentality when it comes to OSU Rainwater. Can you fix this, please?
Yeah, it's such a OSU scores, OSU has 3 hits and on no errors with 2 left on base and scores 1 run on the top of the first.
It was all Longhorns from
there. Sometimes I get that feeling too. Like we're going to pump this thing up and talk about how good we did. Then it was all somebody else from there. But no, I think it's, I love to see the excitement. I mean, obviously you don't want your coach to stand up there and say, no, we don't want to play OU because scared of them or whatever the case is, or I don't want to play OU because of the decades of defeat that fans experience and all that kind of stuff. So I like the enthusiasm. I think it'd be great for both universities, and in particular OSU would be great for a Big 12 conference. Just the brand and the marketability of it, and obviously it probably wouldn't happen during rivalry week where it typically would. It would have to be in a non-conference.
No, it could. I mean, the SEC, they have that week at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, it could.
Does that coincide with the Big 12? Would the Big 12 be on to?
Well, I think the Big 12 would make it work, because that would be a big viewership game, especially if OSU was good.
Yeah. And so, Yeah, but either way is
even better. Play him early before that. OU always gets better as the season goes on. I don't know how many times we might have beat him if it was early, right?
Right. Yeah, correct. Yeah. Don't let them get healthy and get everybody back.
Yeah, right.
Here. And but no, I mean, I don't think, and we're teasing a lot here, but we get back to the brand of football that OSU's been accustomed to, for the most part of the last couple of decades, and there's no reason why we can't go out there, and there's a lot to be said about what you were saying about the naivety of it, and the complaints in the past about Coach Gundy's record against OU, and even some people taking a step further saying, are we ever going to be able to get over the hump with somebody that's done nothing but experience defeat as a player and a coach with that program? So it'll be interesting to see what that rivalry would bring, that now that, that, how do you say it, that the talent level during the good times at OSU over the last 20 years wasn't that much different than the talent level at OU.
OSU had the better team many different years that they lost.
And it would be interesting to see how that works out with, a new era, a new regime, a new program, so to speak. So, yeah, I mean, I would obviously love to see it happen, but I'm not going to cry if it doesn't. So, yeah. And it's not that I don't want OSU to play OU so that we can be Bedlam champs for the rest of time,
Right.
But if it's good for OSU, if it works out in the schedule and all that kind of stuff, then yeah, I think it'll be great for both programs. It would be great for college football to talk about Bedlam again in football, and it'll be exciting. But we'll see how that shakes out. And again, good to see that the coach would, be willing to open that discussion. And, but Chad Weiberg fired back pretty quick, after that, talking about his answer hasn't changed on that based on, the scheduling and that sort of thing. So, I think it would be great and I'd be excited to see it, but it's not a deal breaker for me either way.
Part of being in leadership is you take on fire from casuals that just don't follow the day-to-day actual nitty-gritty of what's going on. So I ignored a lot of the, hey, Chad Weiberg this, hey, Chad Weiberg that. I mean, the dude has hired extremely good coaches. He's very calculated with the way he speaks. He's calculated even just kind of in the cadence of which he speaks. If you're in the coaching world or in administration your whole career, you can kind of read through the lines whenever he talks, but you kind of have to have that experience to be able to do it. This is a very scary time for Oklahoma State University, and to have a guy who's so calm but yet so confident, a guy that's willing to go outside the OSU box, a guy that's willing to turn over every stone, and then more so than anything, who is willing to bet on OSU and sell a vision of OSU to a guy like Eric Morris. It's very impressive to me, and I thought it was very fitting that Eric Morris mentioned, working together with Chad Weiberg and how important that is to work together with the leadership. And I think really kind of what Coach Morris was saying was, hey, yes, I did see all this from afar whenever Coach Gundy was the coach. I coached. Yes, all that happened. But really, to be honest with you, what the driving home point was, Chad Weiberg was able to sell Oklahoma State to Chad Morris. I think we owe a big thank you to Chad Weiberg.
Yeah, and
did I say Chad Morris? If I did, I meant Eric Morris.
Yeah, I think you did. But we'll skip over. And I think I said this about Coach Meacham also when he took over as interim head coach. They're very believable because it's not like they're professional public speakers.
Yes, right.
And to me, that's where you can kind of read in between, like, so, okay, this guy ain't lying to me because I don't think that he's a good enough public speaker to actually.
He's not savvy enough. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not savvy enough. He's not, he's not somebody from the Northeast that knows how to talk. You know what I mean? And when I mean talk, how to, lay it on thick.
How to filibuster.
They're just believable in that sense that, what they're saying comes across as truthful because it's not rehearsed. It's not teleprompter. It's not, a written speech. It's not, this is a guy from, small town Texas that played at Texas Tech, and now he's at OSU. This guy isn't, he just wants to coach football and be successful and, and help kids and that sort of thing. So all that was very believable to me from Eric Morse. I think I'm just going to start saying Coach Morse. I don't mess up saying that.
Yes, great idea.
So I think Coach Morse comes across very believable in the same way that I felt like Coach Meacham did, just because of the mistakes they make in talk. It's just, they're just talking.
Yes.
Delivering a speech. It's not anything other than just, here's my raw feelings and my truthful answer. So I don't get that sense, and I don't want to say nerdy or dorky, but that's just kind of the way. You know what I mean? They're not well versed or well rehearsed and have decades of experience speaking to the media out in front of a program, which to me makes them much more believable in what they're saying.
Yeah.
And so
I definitely think for a football coach, Coach Morris comes off as kind of nerdy, which I like. I think that's different. What I really like about it is I think he knows that and he embraces that. I mean, he told the whole L story, right?
Right. Yeah.
I think that goes to what you're saying about him being genuine.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what you're seeing across college football or college athletics in general in this new era of football with all the different changes over the last 4 or 5 years, is that's what the players are. Yes. That's what they're gravitating towards.
Yeah, 100%.
They're not necessarily gravitating towards guys that have, decades of experience and NFL experience, and all that kind of stuff. They're gravitating towards the younger population that can relate to what they're going through, or that can relate to what they're facing, right? And
what they're gravitated towards is, you tell me this is what you're going to do for me. You show me that you've done it in the past, and then you do it for that. That's what they're gravitated towards. Do I believe you're actually going to do for me what you're telling me you're going to do? Right.
How can I benefit from you? Right.
Yes, correct.
And what have you done for me lately, and all that kind of stuff. And I think you're just seeing a change of the guard, so to speak, in college football of, look at Arizona State, right? And young head coach, and now Coach Morris, and, Matt Campbell going to Penn State, which he's probably maybe a little bit older than them. But I think you're just seeing that athletes today are gravitating towards guys that have a closer playing relationship to them than, maybe the old guard, right? And that kids are looking at, okay, you played college football, you played Division I football in 2008, 2009, 2010, whatever the case is, versus somebody down the road that played Division I football in the 1960s, right? Who are they gravitating towards? And I think what you're seeing is that they're gravitating towards that younger population. And so just simply because they can relate more to those players. So again, and I said this last podcast, it met all the check boxes for me, as far as, and even since we talked last, and the things that have transpired and who he's bringing with him. And I think even, a day or two after we talked last time that, some of the coaches were already on campus hitting the recruiting trail before the early signing period and all that kind of stuff. So it just seems like everything that we talked about last time and that we wanted and expected and liked about it, just keeps getting better, and more icing is getting put on the cake.
Especially at a place like Oklahoma State, where you don't have your first pick of players necessarily like an Alabama would, just from a strictly monetary perspective. Like Alabama can go get the 23-year-old defensive end and pay them whatever they need to do to bring it in. Now, you can get the same talent, but it's probably going to be 2 or 3, maybe 4 years younger. We see that on our baseball side with Josh Holiday, the way that he is building that. So I say that to say, a lot of people would say at a place like Oklahoma State, you have to coach a little bit differently, because if you piss them off, they're just going to leave, right? So if you do that, you're going to have a soft program anyway. So I thought it was really great how Eric Morris made it very clear that there's going to be some old school type coaching in terms of, you're going to be held accountable for this. We're going to work hard for this. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And if I have to go down and get a 3-star to do that, to be able to get that out of a kid in terms of the work ethic and allowing me to coach them the way that they need to be coached, then damn it, that's what's going to happen. But you are going to get coached. You're going to get worked. And if you don't like it, you're not going to be here. I thought he was very clear with that, and I thought that was absolutely awesome, because I would rather have the 3-star kid that wants to be coached, that wants to grow, that wants to do those kinds of things than the prima donna 5-star.
Yeah, and Coach, you know as well, the ones that end up being memorable in your program, the ones that end up being successful, the ones that end up being big time contributors are the ones that want that anyway.
Yes.
You know, those type of guys want coached that way. They want the expectation. They want to be held accountable. They don't always like how they're held accountable, right? But that's what they want, right? And you look at guys that leave or don't like that kind of coaching or don't like the old school. I would say more times than not, those guys are individual players. They're not team guys. They're not riding for the brand. They're not company guys. You know what I mean? They're the type of guys that aren't good for your locker room, right? I think the guys that end up being, especially at OSU, the guys that end up being successful, the guys that end up being contributors, the guys that end up getting the loudest cheers on senior day, right? The guys that end up getting the loudest cheers when their picture flashes across the big screen pregame or postgame are the guys that truly want that type of coaching and that type of style, right? And I think, so yeah, like you're saying, it was great to hear that because I think that's just part of it. To me, it doesn't matter, and you know, you've coached me, you know me, it doesn't matter if you're in the classroom or if you're on the field or whatever the case is. People have expectations, and holding people consistently to those expectations produces a better product, right? Where you get in trouble is when you say, here's the expectation, and you hold some accountable to it and others you don't, right? And I think you've seen that maybe recently in OSU's program that wasn't, that didn't fare well for anybody, and I think that's probably part of some of the problems you had in the locker room or the team aspect or the camaraderie aspect. But yeah, routines, expectations, and holding people accountable to those expectations, if you want to call that old school or whatever, I think that's what successful people expect and enjoy getting from their superiors anyway.
It's the only way a place like Oklahoma State can win anyways, because you just have to have yes, you got to have the skill guys, but really what Oklahoma State has to be is gritty and tough. That needs to be the identity of a Kansas State or an Oklahoma State or an Iowa State, because there's a whole bunch of really good Blake Jarwin type guys out there that will allow you to coach them, that you can win a hell of a lot of games with because they are tougher than the guy in front of them, because they've been coached harder, because they have earned more, that kind of deal. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Well, it's the old, like Dad and Grandpa used to say, is that, son, you're getting fights and you're not going to win them all, but you better make it where they don't want to come back for a second.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's kind of what you're talking about is we're going to get in a fight every Saturday, right? Or freaking Thursdays and Fridays, whatever it plays out to be. But we're going to get in a fight every week, right? And there's a chance, and it's going to be highly unlikely that we're going to win all of them, right? From now until the end of time, we're not going to win all of them. But dadgummit, they need to leave the field shaking your hand, thinking that's the most physical game we've played in all year, right? And that's what it's all about in football. It don't matter if you're talking about local high school, or if you listen to coaches talk at the college level or professional level, it's about play fast, play physical, right? And be the most physical team out there on the field, and good things will happen, right? And so I think that's the physicality of it, that which goes back to old school also. And I think old school just gets, I think it's a lot of things get wrapped into that. I think all those things go together. It's hard to be physical and tough on the field if you're soft in your expectations in the locker room and in the classroom and on the practice field. Right? And so I think all that transitions from, that's just an old school mentality of here's the expectations, here's how we're going to hold you accountable, and that breeds physicality on the field as well. Right? But you can't expect people to be mentally weak all week long and then show up and be mentally strong and not be a mental midget on Saturday, right? And that transitions to the physical side of it as well. So I think all that being said, with the things that he was saying in his press conference, the things that he wants to be, the things that he's instilled as part of his system, his program, I think ultimately has a good chance of having a physical byproduct on Saturdays that is going to be fun and enjoyable to watch. What
do you expect out of this defense we're going to get? This is probably the biggest concern Oklahoma State fans have.
No doubt. It wasn't, I don't know that there's been so much talk about his offense and where they ranked nationally and all that kind of stuff. It was a little concerning to, watch them play Tulane and see that they're ranked 124th in rushing defense in the country, and so, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I would say going into it that the expectation that I'm going to have is we better outscore everybody, right? And
You
what
good
I
with
mean by
that?
that,
Does that excite you?
yeah, as long as it happens, right? I think because what have we griped about, Coach? What have we talked about? We want it to be enjoyable and we want it
That's
to be
something fun.
entertaining. We've talked about numerous times, you and I on this podcast, that even in OSU's best year, sometimes we didn't have a very good defense, but we were able to have an offense that could go score, right? And the problem was sometimes our offense was so good that we scored too early and the defense was right back on the field, right? So I think initially for me, I would be okay with an exciting and entertaining offense, even if our defense was lacking, and let's give some time for that defense to develop. Okay. But what we can't have is what we've had the last 2 years of being just horrific on both sides of it. Right.
Yeah.
I think for anybody to expect that year one coming in, that we're going to show significant improvement on both sides of the football might be a little much, right? Let's show significant improvement and let's hang our hat on what OSU has hung their hat on for several years, and that is a high-powered, explosive offense, right? And play great special teams, right? And let's see where that leads us and give the defense time to develop, right? Some might say, well, we're in a situation right now where we're going to have to give it time for all of it to develop, right? Yeah. And maybe we are, but let's get to an exciting and enjoyable. I think for the most part, your fan base, your people that are just casual fans, or they're football fans but really don't understand football, they want to see high-flying, high-powered offenses, right? Watching an SEC game that's 12-6 final isn't fun and is not enjoyable, and it doesn't keep people in their seats in this part of the country, right? In my opinion, right? And so I think I would be okay with having the expectation that the offense is going to be significantly better, right? Get a quarterback in here, a new quarterback if we do get one, or if Hosseini stays, and see how he develops under this program, or if the quarterback from North Texas comes with Coach Morris or whatever the case is. I would expect us to show significant improvement on the offensive side and give the defense time to develop under this new coaching staff and the new players that they get to bring in that matches their system.
Year one is not usually spectacular for Coach Morris. I mean, he likes to build. I mean, he's not – I don't think he's necessarily gearing everything for next year. Now, I think he probably wants to go around 500 next year, which would be a remarkable turnaround. But I just hope OSU fans don't expect like 10-2 starting next year and being that type. I think next year is still going to be very, very, very rough in a lot of ways, and I don't know what's going to happen. So what are your expectations for next year, and what should OSU fans do you think you expect there?
Yeah, so, as we've talked about also, is that there's a different, that accountability measure of your program, your system, is the results on the field, right?
Yes.
And that doesn't always mean wins and losses. Right? The result that you're looking at shouldn't always be wins and losses. How are we improving at specific positions? How are we improving as a team on a specific side of the football, right? Where was our pain points the last 2 years that got us to the point of a new era beginning, and have we improved in those areas, right? Are we going to get back to being able to run the football, right? Are we going to get back to having some outside receivers that can blow the top off of it, that opens up the short passing game, right? And do we have legitimate threats on each side of the football, right? And I think you do. And on the defense, I think the Wendell Gregory kid is a legitimate threat,
no
right?
doubt.
I think the Malik Charles kid was a legitimate threat before he got hurt. And it'd be great if those guys stuck around and see how they develop under a new coaching staff, if they match the scheme and that sort of thing. But I think you're just at a point in OSU football, and this is probably the most difficult part about it, is it's been so bad the last 2 years that I think people are just looking for any type of improvement, right? And so my expectation, to answer your question, my expectation isn't me trying to predict what the record's going to be. My expectation on the results we're getting is, are we seeing a better product, right? Are we getting a better return, as we talked about last time, are we getting a better return on our investment, right? Am I going to feel better about renewing season tickets after next year than I do right now, right? Am I going to feel that we're actually getting something out of the investment that the fans and the community and the university and the athletic department is investing in, and donors investing into this program? Are we going to see a better return on our investment that says, okay, let's get even better next year? So maybe we go, with 4 wins next year, and then we move to 7 wins next year, and then the next year we're in a position to compete for a Big 12 championship. I hope it happens faster than that. And I think the chances are greatly increased in this era of football with the portal and NIL and all that kind of stuff. But I think people need to have realistic expectations about what your accountability measure is. If your accountability measure is wins and losses, then you may not be very pleased next year. But if your accountability measure is, are we fixing things that we've been deficient in the last couple of years? Are we fixing things that cause us to move into a new era? And are we returning to an exciting and entertaining brand of football that you and I have talked about for over a year now?
Yeah, the brand.
The brand. Yeah, what brand of football are we playing?
We have a brand here.
Yeah, and I think, and I know people made fun of it after, after it kind of went south. But one of the things that Coach Gundy did say that I thought was great after we beat Notre Dame was, we've got a logo too. And I think there's a lot that goes into that. And here's our logo, and this is the brand of football we play. And when people see the logo of OSU across the screen or across a letterhead or whatever the case is, here's the things that they say about that program, right? Yeah. And what is going to be our staple? What is it that we're going to hang our hat on? What is it that we're going to do that people say, oh, when we play OSU, we know we got to be ready for this, right? And I hope we get to a point where people say we better not beat each other up in practice too much, because we know one of the most physical games that we're going to play every year is when we go to Stillwater, or when the Cowboys come to town. So all that being said is, to answer the question of what the expectations are, is I think anybody that has the expectation of placing the accountability measure on wins and losses may be in a situation next year where you're disappointed, right? But hopefully not, right? But the people that are putting their expectations in the accountability measure of, are we playing exciting football? Are we playing fast and physical? Is it a game that I'm going to look forward to turning on the TV because I know it's going to be enjoyable to watch, right? Are we fixing the problems within the program on the field that we've been deficient at the last couple of years?
That's been demoralizing as a fan.
Or some would say 4 out of the last 5 years, or whatever the case is, right? That's been embarrassing to the point where you didn't even want to finish the game, right? Yeah. And you didn't look forward to. It's one of those things like 5 minutes before the game, OSU's playing today, I better turn on the TV, as opposed to being ready for the game to come on TV, or be looking forward to driving over to Stillwater and showing up and picking. So that, to me, that's the expectation of the accountability measure of, are we playing enjoyable football? Are we playing entertaining football? Are we being physical? And are we establishing what our style of football is for the future years to come?
So that's all the fun stuff. There's a honeymoon period, obviously. You want to be positive. You want to be excited about everything. What are just knowing the research you've done on Coach Morris, and we're going to say Coach Morris, that was a great idea, Coach Rainwater, and what you've seen so far as him being the coach at Oklahoma State, his press conference and all that, what are the things that concern you the most, if any, about this hire?
I think, I don't know. I really haven't looked, like I said earlier, I really haven't looked at the cons of it, right? I've looked at all, because you can nitpick enough where you're going to find a con or something you don't like, right? But I'm trying to stay in the mindset of this should be an exciting venture. This should be an exciting time for OSU football, right? And we should all be excited about the direction it's heading with the person that we got in charge of it, and his familiarity with the conference and with the program and the region, and the high school coaches in Texas, which we all know is very vital to the success of OSU football, or the success of most college football program around the country, right? And so I haven't really looked at the cons of it, and the things that I've read, there really hadn't been a lot of, I guess if anybody wanted to, say that it's a negative, or that this is what concerns me about him is, being a head coach for 3 years at, North Texas and not having any experience at, a Power 4 school as a head coach, I guess you could say that's a concern. That's not a concern for me, right? That's not a concern for me. I still really believe that, football is football, man.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you're clutch, you're clutch. I mean, if you know how to handle pressure, you know how to handle. And it's not like he didn't play at a Power 4, right? He's been in Power 4 moments. Yeah.
And, I don't know. That never has bothered me as far as not having head coaching experience at a Power 4 conference. I think I'd be more concerned if he didn't have any head coaching experience at all, and he's making a jump to a Power 4 and being in charge of an entire program at the Big 12 level. But I don't really have anything that scares me about him, and I think probably the reason why that is because we're just at such a low point in the program that we're just looking for anything positive and trying to, because we've been so negative.
Yes.
I'm not saying you and I are, just
demoralized.
There's been so much more negativity surrounding our program than positivity. And I'm hoping that moving on, for me, like we've talked about in the past, not just moving forward, but moving on, that wind of change is shifting too, and that people are going to start being much more positive about the things surrounding our program as opposed to negative, because we've had enough negative over the last couple of years to feel it's a lifetime. So I don't see anything that really. Now somebody may say, well, what about this? Or go, okay, well maybe, but as far as me just off the top of my head thinking about it,
the defense or whatever,
yeah, and maybe that's it. If I wanted to pick out one negative, is that your defensive coordinator is ranked 124th in the country in rush defense, and you brought him with you. Who knows? Maybe it's definitely better with moving to a Power 4 and having that much better talent over a smaller conference or a smaller school. We'll see. But to me, and being kind of hard for me to say as being a guy that's coached defense a lot, for the time I've spent coaching football, but to me, for OSU, me going and sitting in the stands as a fan, I want to see offense.
Yes, no doubt.
Scoring points, and you can go to a baseball game and it can be 3-0, and most people will be bored. But if all three of those were home runs, people are pretty excited.
Yeah, right.
You go to a basketball game, people want to see the dunk, right? Or they want to see somebody shoot it from half court.
Fast break, stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with football. You want to see a high-flying, high-powered offense where, statistically being one of the best offenses in the country. That's where OSU has made a living over that's where they've been successful, right? There's been years that we've been pretty good on defense, but for the most part, we've hung our hat on, scoring points. And I would like to see us get back to that.
Yeah. You know who else wants to see that? Every single kid in this region, because, other than maybe a couple of black and blue teams that are still left in Oklahoma, the schools in Texas, a lot of the bigger schools in Oklahoma, that's the offense they run now. They throw the ball, they run RPOs, they run read option, they run a little bit of air raid behind it. That is the style of offense that every high school in this, of course, every is the wrong word, but that's just the style of offense that people around here play. And then I'll say this, too. I asked that question just to be thorough and kind of cover every aspect of things. But I'll say this. This is why I think Oklahoma State fans need to eliminate that question out of their mind. And I wanted to ask that to say this, and that is Chad Weiberg hired the absolute best coach Oklahoma State could have possibly gotten. So if you do have any negative thoughts or if you do have any concerns, I'm not saying they're not legitimate. I'm saying there's no reason even to put them in your brain because we could not have done better.
So as a principal, that's what I used to tell kids all the time. Okay, and I would say this to any negative Nancy OSU fan also.
Yes,
is think what you want to.
Yes.
Okay, I can't get on to you and I can't punish you for what you think.
Correct.
Right. But I can get on to you and discipline you for what you do or what you say that's outside the bounds of policies and procedures, right? Mm-hmm. And I would say the same thing to any negative Nancy OSU fan. Be negative if you want to. Just keep it to yourself.
Yeah, right? I agree.
Nobody's telling you. I think it's where too many times, whether you're an administrator or you're arguing with another fan or whatever the case is too many times the conversation goes on way too long because neither one of you have figured out that you're not going to change the other person's mind. right? And me sitting here arguing with you, trying to convince you that you're wrong when you don't think you're wrong is a waste of time, right? So me trying to say to somebody, you shouldn't have negative thoughts, that's a waste of time, right? Have all the negative thoughts you want to, right? Just don't let the rest of us experience them, right? Keep them to yourself, and let's let this thing play out, and let's see if that there's significant improvement in the areas that we've been deficient. Let's see if all the things that have been said great about Coach Morse and his staff and his program and his philosophies and his foundation, his system are successful at OSU before we just start being negative. We've had so much negativity. I'll say it again, with so much negativity surrounding OSU football that it would be crazy to say that all of us fans don't have in the back of our mind some negative thought or some anticipation of what's going to go wrong next, right? Are we ever going to get out of this hole? That's in the back of all of our minds, right? But what I would say to those people is keep it in the back of your mind and put all the pauses about it to the forefront of your mind, and let what's coming out of your mouth be what's at the forefront of your head, not what's in the back of your head, right? So it's crazy to sit here and say people don't need to have negative thoughts. People don't need to have any reservations. People don't need to have any anxiety about what we've had. Just keep it in your head, shut up, right? And let it play out, right? And have some evidence, have some results, right? As part of that accountability measure that we've talked about numerous times on this podcast. Have some evidence to back up what those thoughts are before you just start spewing them. So I think part of moving on, like we talked about last podcast, and that this is truly OSU moving on.
Yes, it is.
Era. It's a whole new feel. It's a whole new era.
It is.
We're moving away from, 2 decades of a certain way of doing things. And this is a true moving on, right? And part of that needs to be the mindset of the fans as well, right? And there needs to be a moving on and a shift of mindset from what's gonna go wrong next, right? And a shift of mindset from the negative aspects that has surrounded this program, and we need to move on as a fan base too and look at all the positives and keep all the negatives in the back of our mind, because again, I'm not going to tell anybody that you shouldn't have any negative thoughts. I'm not going to tell anybody that you shouldn't have any reservations. Have them, right? I'm not going to convince you shouldn't. Just keep them to yourself.
Yeah, it reminds me of hitting a baseball. You get the question asked, hey, do you ever get over the fear of getting hit by the ball, the pitch that the pitcher throws? No, that not even, no matter how many games you play as a professional, you never actually get over that fear. But the best hitters, what they've done is they've learned to put it in the back of their mind and just hide it better than all the other people. But it doesn't ever go away, and so they're able to overcome it. And that's kind of reminds me exactly of what you're saying. We all have reservations. We're all a little bit scared to move on from Coach Gundy. We're all a little bit scared of getting left behind in 2030. But you got to put that in the back of your mind, like you do the fear of getting hit by a baseball, and get over that and think about what this program can do and all the good things, and get excited. And then the best way to do this and the best way to move on and give yourself the best chance to be successful is for everybody to participate as much as they possibly can. Whether that be donate $5, go to a game, go to a basketball game, go to a baseball game, go to whatever it is that you can to help donate. Because really, whenever you go in and you pay admission for a game, you're donating to the university, right? You're getting a service back, no doubt about it. But whenever you pay $13 for nachos or whatever, I mean, you can go get nachos at On Cue for $3, right? I mean, you're donating whenever you do that to the university. So the best way to do that, to move on and to give yourself the best chance of success, is everybody, no matter how you feel about this, everybody do as much as you can to move forward.
And to me, it goes back to what the definition of courage is, right? And that one of the aspects of showing courage is overcoming fear, right? And so if you did something extraordinary, but you weren't scared, then it wasn't courageous. Because one of the biggest aspects of being courageous is overcoming the fear of what was happening and still able to successfully produce, right? So I think that's where it's kind of dorky to maybe say everybody needs to find some courage, or be courageous in your post on Facebook or whatever the case is. But I think that's where the point I'm trying to get at is, I'm not going to tell you shouldn't be scared, right? When we, as fathers of boys that have played baseball or are playing baseball, it's not that I throw a baseball when you start playing catch with your son at an early age, and the first time you move from a ball that's soft to a ball that's actually hard, and a true baseball, and it hits them in the face for the first time. I'm, convincing them that it doesn't hurt. Okay, trying to convince them that it's not going to hurt the next time, you're wasting your time, right? But teach them how to be courageous. Teach them how to be a boy. Teach them how to be a man, and that there's going to be other things that hurt too, and you got to overcome it. So those are all the things that, and I think that goes back to what we were saying of the things that we like to hear in the press conference from Chad Morris and the old school mentality that
Eric
was coming.
Morris.
Did I say it again? I don't know. I even said to say Coach Morris. You were just waiting for me to say it so you could throw it out there.
I actually wasn't. I just happened to catch you because I do it so often.
So anyway, people just got to get over that.
Oh yeah, I've already told them. I already made the announcement. If I say Chad Morris, just know what I'm saying.
That's me showing courage right there. Because I have a spirit that I keep saying Chad Morris, and I just keep talking anyway. No, but but going back to it, I think that's like you said it perfectly by saying that getting hit by a baseball is there a fear that the next pitch is coming to hit? Absolutely, 1,000%, right? And I going back to what you were saying about offenses and the brand of football that kids are playing. I remember when I first started coaching, the high school I was coaching at, we went down to Texas for spring break. It was baseball, obviously. And we were playing at Allen, Texas. We were playing Plano and Allen and everybody in the kind of that area. And we went to Allen High School. And I think I've mentioned this on this podcast before. And that year they had passed a $30 million bond issue to build a new football stadium, right? That same year, OSU had raised $18 million to spray paint the rust underneath. This was before Boom Pickens Stadium. Yeah. And I remember making the comment of, OSU will never get a kid from Allen, Texas, because they're building a $30 million stadium, and they just completed at that time, within the last couple of years, an indoor football facility, right? OSU's never going to get a kid from Allen, Texas, because they got nicer facilities in high school than they were going to have when they came to OSU. Again, this is before Boone Pickens Stadium. And the same thing you're talking about also is, why would I want to go from an exciting and enjoyable brand of football I played in high school to that? You don't. Not be successful. I get it works if you're winning national champions doing that. Sure. Championships doing that. But I can't go from being a wide receiver that's got literally, and I'm experiencing this right now because my son, who just finished his senior year in football, and he's getting some interest from college, and I'm looking up rosters and how many 5'10" white kids that they have on their team that play wide receiver and that sort of thing, and looking at some of these stats, these kids, it's like he had 60 something catches for 800 yards. My gosh, how many times you got to throw it for one guy to get 60? That would never happen at the school that my son plays at. Right. And so, or played at. And so that's what, trying to get to what you were saying is, why would I, if I'm a wide receiver and I caught the ball of one of the 4 or 5 receivers on the team in high school, and I got the ball thrown to me 70 times, right? And 60 of those were good passes, and I caught them, right? Because you're always going to have the balls that were thrown to you that were uncatchable and that sort of thing, or the quarterback, whatever the case is. But why would I want to go as a wide receiver, go from being in high school and having 60 to 70 catches in a season to go to a program that doesn't throw the football? Right? Yeah, exactly. And that's a big part of it, is that this is the type of offense these guys play. And so they're going to want to be playing this Eric Morris offense, no doubt. And on the reverse side of that, as a premier running back in the country, why would I want to go to a football program that's not going to hand me the ball? Yeah, which OSU is going to run the ball with Eric Morris, no doubt. There's the balance there of how are you going to convince, and OSU's done a good job of that in the past, right? And been able to do it by going out and getting underrated kids, right? And I think that's what OSU is going to continue to have to do, is go out and get underrated kids that convince them to come to OSU, because we're going to throw the football. And the guy that's on the same visit with you, standing next to you, you hear him say, yeah, we're going to run the football, right? Yeah. And that sort of thing. So I think that's all very much a juggling act and a balancing act that OSU has got to fix. I think there's some pieces of that on the team right now. I think there's, the Fields kid, and you've got some running backs that potentially can be the contributors and be very good for OSU moving forward if they choose to stay. And see what Coach Morris can bring in is with wide receivers. And I think one of the things that I was excited about is the number of high school kids that were signed. I know people are going to say, why would you be excited about that in this new era of transfer portal and blah, 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 blah. But the number of high school kids that they signed in the early signing period.
Mm-hmm. Especially with 8 days to do it with, yeah.
So to me, I like that just because
that's how you build. I mean, you can't build your whole roster on transfers, because transfers are either looking for a payday or they're somebody else's problem, right? Yeah. There are some kids that are just out there like a Campbell Smithwick or the shortstop for OSU a couple of years ago that was so good. That came from Mississippi State. There are Lane Forsythe. There are guys out there that are looking for a new home that don't have any intention other. Hey, I just want to find a home that I'm comfortable with. That are looking for a home and not a payday, that aren't somebody else's problem. But there's not enough to go get 60 of those guys that are talented enough to be good. So you're either getting somebody else's problem or somebody who's looking for a payday. And so the only really kind of area of player that you can get the best of all worlds, that have got people that aren't looking for a payday, they're just looking for a home, are the younger high school players. So you still have to build your roster around those high school players and then fill it in on the edges with the transfer guys, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And so it was good to see that in the early signing. I can't remember how many we signed and how many were high school, but for whatever reason, it stood out to me that I felt like we signed more than maybe I was anticipating that.
Yeah, and there's a second signing period too that we can add to it. So
right, and so anyway, I'm excited about moving on, and I hope that change of wind tickers down to the fan base and moving on from the negative aspects surrounding our program and focusing on the positive aspects. You search or read long enough, you're going to find something you don't like, right? But do the pros outweigh the cons? And like you said earlier, that's exactly right, is that I don't know that Chad Weiberg and the athletic department and the university could have done a better job at who they picked to lead this program moving forward.
100%. Coach Rainwater, thank you so much. Go Pokes.
Go Pokes.